Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo, this is 3 Buck Theater, and this is my review, my what I think of South Park Season 21, Episode 3, Holiday Special. Now, after the first two episodes being, I don't want to say lackluster, but definitely not the best that Trey and Matt have put out there, this episode basically takes them back to form by doing the one thing it always can do when they're in a bit of a lump, and that is focus on Randy. It's a Randy episode, folks. The whole thing's a Randy episode, and it's why it completely works. And one of the reasons why Randy episodes always seem to do better in these further down the road seasons is the fact that Trey and Matt are both fathers. They're both around the same age Randy is, so they just happen to look at life through that perspective, through that lens. And oftentimes a lot of it has to do with what they're feeling as that age of adults, and just translating it through Randy because they find it to be more relatable than the 10-year-old boys. Now, this episode's all about making fun of the aftermath of Charlottesville, with people tearing down the Civil War monuments, although this time around it's all about Randy getting really up in arms about Christopher Columbus and how it's got to go down. He's a racist, slaughtered millions of people. So he basically talks the school calendar planner into getting rid of Columbus Day as a holiday kids take off, and everyone finds out that it was Randy, and the boys are all pissed off at Stan. Stan was trying to talk Randy out of it, can't do it because Randy, well, he went into Randy mode, and you guys all know what that means. When Randy gets into Randy mode, it's like the episode where he gets drunk at the game. Like, this is America. There's America. You know, that's Randy. And so as a result of this, Stan tries to, work with Kyle to figure out a way to stop him. And they basically find out that Randy has a big Christopher Columbus love, like dresses up as Christopher Columbus multiple times, to which case Randy, goes, oh, well, 2003 was an odd time, or 2013 was an odd time, and everybody was really into Christopher Columbus, which, if I recall correctly, this was before the big anti-Christopher Columbus movement that we have nowadays, before the Indigenous Peoples Day movement out of Canada and some states and cities here in the United States. So it's like around 2013, there was kind of a big upswing of Christopher Columbus, and then somebody just happened to Google that he was, kind of an insufferable douchebag, and they ended up, really kind of arguing against that. But the other part of this is, Randy trying to get out of being, busted for dressing as Christopher Columbus. And what I loved about this particular plot point is the fact that this was very reminiscent of what we see from the regressive left, or social justice warriors, or by some extent male feminists. Oftentimes the people that are the loudest, that are arguing the loudest against something, are guilty of the exact same thing. By some extent you could call it Sargon's law, which is an internet term referencing Sargon of Akkad, and comments he's made that are very similar. And this is basically the exact same. So the episode is essentially kind of like the epitome of Sargon's law. Randy is championing against Columbus Day so hard, so heavily, going as far as to call random people in Columbus, Ohio, and say that the racist pieces of crap because they live in a town named after this douchebag. Then he goes to Columbus Circle in New York, and he takes a crap on the giant statue in New York City, wearing a shirt that says "I crap on New York," because he hates Christopher Columbus because it's racist. And that's the mindset of these progressive liberals, these people nowadays that take everything so seriously, even though they were probably engaged in it in their past. So it's always funny when these kind of things come up, which is one of the reasons why I view this episode as being one of the more socially poignant episodes that South Park has done in quite some time, simply because of that fact. But what really sealed this to me, what really made this great, was the whole DNA in Me, which is clearly a rip from the 23andMe DNA specialist commercials. You hear about them on the radio quite a bit, where it's like, oh, take a swab of your DNA, send it in, and we'll tell you what your genetic makeup is. And the commercial that they show has all these white people like, I thought I was just an average white guy till I found out that I'm 2.43% black, so I can say what's up, my N-word, and all that kind of thing. And then they go, oh, I'm 23% victim, I'm a victim, I'm oppressed. And that's, again, a lot of what you see coming out of this. Is a lot of the mindset of the left, is that if they were able to be given that victim status that they so heavily covet, then they would use it almost as a weapon in some extent. And that's kind of what happened here. But Randy tries to go about it in a different way. he goes and he gets a local Native American man. I don't know if he's not a chief, but just a local Native American man, and pays him $100 to make out with him in order to get his DNA in his mouth. So when he does a cotton swab, of which case he arranged an entire DNA and me party, like swabbing party, so people can all witness that he's swabbing his mouth and nobody saw him make out with the Indian guy. And then of course, this creates an anomaly that makes the DNA and me people come back to Randy wanting to get more info out of him, wanting to do something else. And at this point, the Native American guy who he made out with is like in love with him. You know, it's like, I can't go back to normal. I can't get that kiss out of our head, you know? And then they say, hey, well, we're going to need like an anal swab. So Randy's like, give me like 3 minutes and everything else. So then they stop him in the process of it all, and they end up taking the swab. So Randy then tries to break in to the DNA and me offices in order to get the lab results, to maybe change them or to figure out what they are. Gets caught in the process doing that, but they have his actual results. So you find out that he's 2.8% Neanderthal, and that there was a bit of crossbreeding between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, and he might be a byproduct of that. And it's so funny because he immediately now is a minority, right? And so he's like, oh, crossbreeding, you mean rape? You know, why'd you tell me my people were destroyed? You know, and so he basically is able to then twist everything that he was afraid of having happen to him, or what he was already bitching about, and turn it around to make him once again the victim, or him once again the person that can control this particular sentiment, which is hysterical because, again, this is the exact mindset of people on the regressive left that act this particular way. And if you don't believe me and you're just coming to this video not knowing my other channel, which is Mundane Matt, go check that out. I cover lots of these kind of stories. This is the exact mindset of these people, which is one of the reasons why this episode is actually on the pulse of society right now. And so it feels good to actually have Trey and Matt back to some form. But what I loved was the finale of the episode, because Randy keeps saying, oh, they're just being indigenous to me, you know, and screwing up the word indigenous with incredulous. And so he actually goes back and has the school, calendar planning guy change the day from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, clearly making fun of people that are, you know, like I said, Canada and I think LA and a few other cities that have tried pushing this initiative through, and gets them to change it to Indigenous Peoples Day. But again, because it's, not actually indigenous, it's all about being incredulous. He says, oh, basically this is a day where we're all just shitty to each other, which, to be fair, when people come out there and they start making the push for Indigenous Peoples Day, there's a lot of pushback against that from people who don't want it to be called that, like it to be called Columbus Day, and maybe do or don't know precisely what Columbus did. What's funny though is in this episode they never fully go through and explain what Columbus did that was so bad, and that might actually be a large part of what they were attempting to do, because instead of informing the audience, they're basically going to make them go and research it themselves if they give enough of a crap. They basically tell you that he was a murderer. They basically tell you he killed millions of people. Cartman has his own little rhyme for it where it's all like in 1492, Christopher Columbus got us a day off school, and has this little rhyme scheme for everything. Like in 1490, like millions of throats were cut. If we don't get a day off school for what, then what's it for, or something like that. He rhymed way better than me, but that's essentially what happens. It's one of the reasons why that particular scene was so funny, because kids don't understand Columbus Day. They just want the day off of school, right? People who work in government buildings, they just want the day off of work. People who go to, whatever, they want the day off of whatever. They don't want to deal with it. They don't care what it's about. So when you have the fight between Columbus Day people and Indigenous Peoples Day, the vast majority of people don't care because it doesn't directly impact them, which is the entire point of the episode, is kind of drawing awareness to that, especially at the end when people are like, I don't think you understand what Indigenous People Day are, and then they still kind of just don't care. No one attempts to explain it to Randy. So it's one of those episodes that very much is poking fun at the regressive left and a lot of the snowflake mentality, and the people who like to try to kind of weaponize victimhood, and then also poking fun at the people that never actually take the time to research history and are just happy to get a day off of work and or school. But anyway, episode 3 of this season, holiday special, was them back at not top form, but definitely close to top form. An episode I was laughing my ass off. at, my girlfriend is laughing her ass off at, and it's just a fantastic thing. But I want to know your thoughts on this one. Did you think that this was better than the last 2 episodes? Do you think that if it is, did it redeem parts of the season? Or do you think that the show is kind of running on fumes and we can kind of see that now 3 episodes in? These are things I want to know. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments. My name, of course, is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Peace out.